1777. The American Revolution stands at a crossroads. After 2 years of war, the dream of independence teeters on the edge of collapse. British forces dominate New York, the Continental Army has been beaten and bloodied, and morale is fading fast. But in the dense forests of upstate New York, fate gathers its armies. Here, 2 battles, fought at Freeman's Farm and Bemis Heights, will determine not just the survival of the revolution, but the birth of a nation. This is the epic story of Saratoga, where ambition, courage, and defiance turned a rebellion into a revolution that changed the world. In early 1777, the British believed victory was close. Their plan: isolate rebellious New England, the cradle of revolution, from the rest of the colonies. The architect of this bold scheme was General John Burgoyne, a flamboyant officer nicknamed Gentleman Johnny. Known as much for his theatrical writing as his military skill, Burgoyne promised London a quick victory. His plan called for 3 British armies to converge on Albany, New York. A Burgoyne would march south from Canada. A Berry Street Ledger would advance from Lake Ontario. And General William Howe would move north from New York City. The 3 forces, united, would seize control of the Hudson River and choke off the rebellious Northeast. But plans crafted in boardrooms rarely survive the battlefield. Communication between the British generals was slow, and Howe, lured by the glory of capturing Philadelphia, abandoned the plan entirely. Burgoyne, unaware that he was alone, pressed on through wilderness, rivers, and hostile territory, dragging with him 30 cannons, hundreds of wagons, and a mile-long train of followers. It was a grand spectacle, and a logistical nightmare. By June 1777, Burgoyne's army, nearly 8,000 men strong, crossed Lake Champlain, capturing Fort Ticonderoga in a stunning early success. London rejoiced. But the celebration was premature. The Americans, though forced to retreat, felled trees, burned bridges, and flooded roads, turning every mile of Burgoyne's advance into a slow, exhausting crawl. The once proud army took nearly a month to move just 20 miles. American resistance hardened under General Philip Schuyler and later General Horatio Gates, who reorganized the Northern Army at Stillwater. Reinforcements from New England and militias poured in. Men who had once fought as farmers now standing as soldiers. And among them was a man destined for both glory and infamy: Benedict Arnold. Arnold was everything Gates was not: daring, impulsive, and beloved by his men. He was a fighter, not a politician. While Gates preferred reports and fortifications, Arnold believed in action. Their rivalry would ignite both victory and betrayal. In August, Burgoyne's situation worsened. His supply lines were cut, native allies began deserting, and a detachment sent to seize supplies at Bennington was annihilated by local militias. Over 1,000 casualties. The wilderness had devoured his strength, and now the Americans waited. Burgoyne reached the rolling fields near Freeman's Farm on September 19th. Ahead of him lay Bemis Heights, a fortified ridge commanding the Hudson River, defended by Gates's entrenched army. Believing he could break through the American left, Burgoyne advanced in 3 columns: British regulars in the center, German Hessians on the right, and Loyalist auxiliaries on the left. But as they entered the woods, they stumbled straight into Daniel Morgan's Riflemen, hidden among the trees. Morgan's sharpshooters were legends, frontier hunters who could hit a target at 300 yards. Their first volley tore through the British officers, plunging the advance into confusion. Then came Arnold's brigades. Ignoring Gates's cautious orders, Arnold threw his men into the fight. For 6 brutal hours, the 2 sides clashed in smoke and thunder, redcoats firing disciplined volleys against American guerrilla tactics. Arnold galloped across the field, rallying men, shouting commands, his voice hoarse but unyielding. The British line wavered but held, their artillery hammering the woods. By sunset, both sides were exhausted. Burgoyne technically held the field, but his losses were devastating. Nearly 600 killed or wounded, compared to 300 Americans. Freeman's Farm was no victory. It was a warning, the first sign that Britain's northern invasion was doomed. After Freeman's Farm, a tense stalemate gripped both camps. Burgoyne's troops, low on food and ammunition, dug in. Horses died by the hundreds. Desertion spread among his German allies. His once proud army was trapped in a hostile land. Meanwhile, the American camp buzzed with reinforcements. Farmers, blacksmiths, and volunteers arrived daily, swelling Gates's numbers to nearly 12,000. But within the American command, jealousy brewed. Gates, proud and political, took all credit for the first battle, erasing Arnold's name from reports. Arnold erupted in fury, accusing Gates of cowardice. The argument ended with Gates stripping Arnold of command. Yet even disgraced, Arnold refused to leave. He lingered near the front lines, restless, waiting for another chance to prove himself. By October, Burgoyne's situation was desperate. His supplies were gone, reinforcements had failed to arrive, and the American army loomed ever larger. But Burgoyne refused to retreat. On October 7th, he gambled everything. Taking 1,500 men, he launched an attack on the American left to probe for weakness. It was a fatal mistake. American scouts spotted the movement, and within minutes, Daniel Morgan and General Enoch Poor were ordered to intercept. As the British columns advanced, they were met with a storm of musket fire and artillery. The forest erupted in smoke and blood. The Americans moved swiftly, cutting off Burgoyne's flanks. Confusion turned to panic. Then, like a storm unleashed, Benedict Arnold burst onto the battlefield. Defying Gates's orders, he rode out on horseback, sword drawn, shouting for his men to follow. Arnold charged through gunfire, rallying retreating troops, and personally led assaults on key positions. His courage was contagious. Soldiers who moments before were faltering now surged forward with renewed fury. Under Arnold's direction, the Americans surrounded Bremen's redoubt, a fortified position guarding Burgoyne's flank. After brutal hand-to-hand combat, the redoubt fell. Arnold, charging through the breach, was shot in the leg, the same leg wounded years earlier at Quebec. Carried from the field, Arnold's men cheered him as a hero. Burgoyne's army, shattered and demoralized, fell back in chaos. The Battle of Bemis Heights was a decisive American victory. The British suffered devastating losses, over 1,000 in the combined clashes and pursuits. Burgoyne's path of escape was gone. Burgoyne retreated north toward Saratoga, harassed constantly by American skirmishers. Rain soaked the countryside. His men were starving, sick, and surrounded. By October 13th, he was completely encircled. Gates offered terms of surrender, honorable, but final. On October 17, 1777, beneath the autumn sun, General Burgoyne surrendered his entire army of 5,800 men to General Gates. The scene was solemn. The British stacked their arms, drums muffled, as the American soldiers watched silently. It was the first time in history that a full British army had surrendered to a colonial force. The victory at Saratoga electrified the colonies. Church bells rang for days. Newspapers called it the miracle on the Hudson. Even Washington, struggling at Valley Forge, hailed it as proof that liberty could triumph against empire. But the greatest shockwaves were felt across the Atlantic. In Paris, diplomats like Benjamin Franklin and Silas Deane seized the moment. The French court, long hesitant to support the rebels, now saw hope. France officially recognized the United States and entered the war in early 1778, signing a treaty of alliance that brought naval fleets, soldiers, and gold. The American Revolution was no longer an isolated struggle. It had become a global conflict. Soon, Spain and the Dutch Republic would join against Britain. Battles raged in the Caribbean, the Mediterranean, and India. The British Empire found itself stretched thin, fighting wars on multiple fronts, all because of one fateful surrender at Saratoga. Saratoga transformed the revolution from a colonial rebellion into an international war for liberty. History often remembers names, but Saratoga was won by countless unsung heroes. Men like Daniel Morgan, whose riflemen shattered the British advance. Timothy Murphy, the sharpshooter said to have killed key British officers at Freeman's farm. And the countless farmers, artisans, and frontiersmen who left their homes to fight for a dream of freedom. Horatio Gates, celebrated as the hero of Saratoga, basked in fame but later fell into disgrace after his disastrous defeat at Camden in 1780. Benedict Arnold, once the hero of the hour, would spiral into resentment and betrayal, eventually defecting to the British in 1780. His name forever synonymous with treason. Yet, at Saratoga, his leadership was undeniable. Without Arnold's fury and instinct, victory might never have come. As for Burgoyne, he returned to England humiliated, defending his honor before Parliament. He would never command in battle again. The battles of Saratoga remain among the most consequential in world history. Strategically, they destroyed Britain's northern army and secured the Hudson Valley. Politically, they convinced France, and later Europe, that American independence was not just possible, but inevitable. It was the moment the Revolution found legitimacy, the turning point that made victory at Yorktown possible 4 years later. Today, the quiet fields of Freeman's Farm and Bemis Heights stand preserved as sacred ground. Visitors can still trace the earthworks, walk the ridges where cannons once thundered, and stand at the spot where Arnold fell. The wind whispers through the same trees that once bore witness to musket fire, reminders that freedom was not granted, but fought for. From chaos came courage. From defeat came determination. And from the fields of upstate New York came the birth of a nation. If you enjoyed this journey through history's turning points, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more epic stories of courage, strategy, and destiny that shaped our world. Because history isn't just what happened, it's what reminds us who we are.